with soreness in his ankle. And now a report says that same ankle will keep him out of tonight's game as well. LA is currently the 6th seed and are very close to the 7th seed, which would put them in the play-in tournament. Shoot program, Lakers. The King is definitely not a fan of the format. Take a listen.
You know, if this happens to we end up at 6th or 5th or whatever the case may be, or if we end up in the the playoff, whatever that thing is, whoever came up with that need to be fired. But whatever.
Got to bring in Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. But Slick Rick, coming to you first. You have an issue with LeBron complaining about the play-in tournament.
Hell yeah, I got a problem with LeBron complaining about the play-in because we've had it since last year. Did we hear any complaints last year? Did we hear any complaints during the offseason? Did we hear any complaints up until this very moment where suddenly it looks like the Lakers might be participating in the play-in game? And now we have a problem. I said the same thing about Mark Cuban and Luka Doncic. This is just incredibly self-serving. The reality is the play-in games last year in the bubble were as exciting and entertaining as any games that were played in the bubble. And if you look at what we have right now, teams are playing down to the final game. This was supposed to be an anti-tanking device, and it has ultimately worked. So this idea that, well, if it's not good for me, then it's not good, just seems to be so short-sighted for someone like LeBron, who has been around the game as long as he has and has the capacity to look at the big picture. The play-in, I love the play-in games, and I believe that the fans, by and large, love the play-in games. And considering all of the torture that the fans have gone through over the last couple years, doing something that benefits them seems like the only right thing to do.
It is a rarity on this show that Slick Rick and I agree. But I'm totally on board with what he just said. Yeah, I've got a problem with LeBron saying it. Number one, the timing. If LeBron had come out and said this as soon as they instituted the rule and said, we're going to now have a play-in, and he had said, hold on, you got 82 games or 72 games to figure out who's worthy of making the play-in or the playoffs. Why do we need a play-in? Then I would have respected that. But this timing is bad. And as Rick said, I'm going to take it a bit further. He mentioned Luka Doncic. Mark Cuban, the Dallas Mavericks owner, who voted before the season for the play-in. Then a month or so ago, when it looked like the Mavericks would be in the play-in, now he's upset with it. Now he's got a problem with it. Self-serving. Rick was right. That's the exact phrase to use, self-serving. And it's really from the guys who, not in their wildest dreams, did they think they'd be in the play-in. Right? LeBron never thought the Lakers would be in the play-in. Probably didn't even think about it. Same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. We all thought they'd be maybe a top 4 team in the West. But when it started showing, they could be in the play-in, then they had a problem with it. And I'm with Rick. I love it. I think LeBron's just flat out wrong, not just the timing, but actually his rationale. This is great. It gives us a March Madness element to the NBA playoffs without taking away from the 7-game series. It puts superstars like Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, maybe Zion Williamson in the playoffs to some degree. And as Rick said, it takes away the tanking. So Toronto went to LA last night and played hard. And now the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Blazers, the Celtics, all these teams have to play hard to wrap up the season. I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm with you guys, man. Echo it the same way. It just doesn't reek of leadership, and especially doesn't reek of the status that you expect and what you want to hear from LeBron James, not just the leader of the Lakers, but the face of the NBA. Is just interesting. This is just a rule of mine about life. I don't publicly complain about rules, but instead privately work on changing those same rules. Like when you have the power, when you have the voice of LeBron James, That's the way to go about it, because publicly complaining about it right now, everyone's going to look at you and tear you apart. The timing of it, the rationale behind it. It flipped on you, huh, LeBron? It went from a them problem to a you problem. And now all of a sudden you got a different way of interpreting this. Takes me back to voting time when people go in there and we all know who you're going to vote for president. Okay. Who you going to vote for in terms of maybe governor? Okay. Easy ones, right? What about Proposition 187? Nobody knows what the hell Proposition 187 is about because it's for other people. It ain't got nothing to do with me, right? So you check it. All right, playing game, that's for them over there. I don't know who they are. Proposition 187, whatever. Then all of a sudden, that them problem becomes your problem, and you wish you would have voted differently and knew more about Proposition 187. Yeah. That's how LeBron James sounds like in this moment, man. And it's sad because he can go about this a different way and get what he really desired if he truly felt this. But he only is feeling the fire from potentially being in the playing game, and that's changing his tune.
Yeah, I go back to 2 years ago, and we had the 8th-seeded Clippers, and we had the Kings. The 9th seed was, 8-9 games behind them, finished. And the last couple of weeks, it was already determined who was going to be in the playoffs in the Western Conference. So we didn't have any of the drama that we have right now. The Raptors are 2.5 games out of that 10th spot. They're 4.5 games with 7 games to go out of the 8th seed. Do you think they play the Lakers the way they did? Do you think that game had the meaning that it did last night if they're playing for the 8th seed as opposed to the 10th seed? I don't see any way. And Marcellus, I'm glad you brought up the whole leadership thing, because this plays into what we talked about earlier about I'm never going to be 100% again, and we're in the play-in game, and whoever came up with that should be fired. There's so much negativity about their circumstance coming from your leader, and especially in this circumstance when it comes to the Lakers. Like, there's an understandable explanation as to why they are where they are. And the simple answer would have been, yeah, we might wind up in the play-in game, but we know that we're not a play-in game type of team, and I just want us to get healthy so we can demonstrate that. The reason they are where they are is something they don't have a control over, which is injury. It would be easy enough to acknowledge that and say, but I still believe in my team, as opposed to, yeah, I mean, he just like, that's all I really heard in that little soundbite. And it's not this message that I want to hear on the eve of my team trying to go in and repeat as champions.
Well, yeah, and also, look, if they're the 7th seed, so they're in the play-in, yeah, anything can happen in a one-and-done type situation, although ultimately, you know, it wouldn't be one and done for them most likely. They'd have to lose 2 games to one of those 9th or 10th seeded teams. But it could be an easier path, actually, because right now, maybe if you're the 7th seed, you get Utah or Phoenix in the first round as opposed to Denver or the Clippers. Now, I know Utah and Phoenix are good teams, but I think you might rather face them than the Clippers or the Nuggets. So it could end up working out for the Lakers if indeed they finished in the play-in. But I'm going to throw another angle at you guys, too. I'm down at this point in time for anything that is going to increase the importance of the regular season. I'm tired of guys just sitting out. And I know that LeBron and Anthony Davis were legitimately injured, and that's fine. And so were several other players around the league. But there's also guys just sitting out randomly for rest, taking time off, because they know the regular season doesn't mean that much. Now, if you have to finish with a top 6 seed to avoid the play-in, it means more. It's going to be reflected in my postseason award or my regular season award voting. You know, guys, I'm going to start rewarding guys that show up and play just about every night. And that's how it should be. We've got to get the regular season relevance back. And a message needs to be sent to the players. And something like a play-in could do that, too.
I'm with you guys, man. And LeBron James has to understand the responsibility as the face of the league and a global ambassador. And it's just weird that it's creating more friendly fire. Like, they take shots at themselves. Mark Cuban taking a shot at the league and taking a shot at his own vote. And then LeBron taking a shot at whoever did this. It's just silly because the league has a huge question mark. Let's be real about the league in terms of the ratings and how it's not translating. Let's go back to last year. You have the Los Angeles Lakers, most storied franchise in the NBA, with LeBron James, the biggest, baddest star you have, and no one in the world could leave their home. And the ratings were still at the lowest in the last 30 years for NBA Finals. Make it make sense. So I just need better leadership around me in all situations. Let me say this to you, Chris, and you, Slick. If I'm ever in a position like the Lakers are, fighting for my life, I'm just fighting for my life. What I don't want to hear is, man, why do we have to die? Or, death sucks. You know what I want to hear? Marcel, you got so much to live for. Get your butt up and let's go get this. That's